The E-files, the Epstein files. Little 8-bit action with the X-Files there. I did like that show, The X-Files. It's another amazingly beautiful day on the High Line here in New York City, and I wanted to come back up here. I'm a little sensitive to, I hope people don't get bored with the High Line all the time, but we've had a major scaffolding removal, and so I just thought it would be nice. Maybe we've even seen that before, but I didn't exactly notice it. And I also figured a lot of times most people are doing podcasts from the same apartment or studio anyway, so at least I'm walking around. The background changes. A lot to talk about with these Epstein files. I thought it was pretty weird that they released over 33,000 documents. Maybe that's a coincidence, I don't know. Some people still mistake, I'm not saying that the 33 number is, gematria or numerology or some kind of magical something. I'm saying it's a code. It's a steganographic marker. Steganography is the art and science of hiding messages in plain sight. Everybody sees, they publicly announce it's 33,000 documents, but yet that means something to somebody who's in the know. That's all I'm trying to say. And then people will say, oh no, Jason, it's Masonic 33. And Jesus was 33 when he was crucified, and it has all this biblical significance. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying whoever it is that decided that that's the code probably knows that too. And by the way, I should preface this by saying these are my opinions. I could be wrong. I'm not telling people, right, a little bit over 33, Gloria, but 33,000 is the big part of the number. People might look at the same evidence I look at and come to different conclusions. It's your right to do that. But right, let's look at the High Line here. We've got this major scaffolding removal. Also, it's a weekday now, holiday is over, so it's a little bit more, open here on the High Line. You got a little more freedom, not quite as shoulder to shoulder as it can be. And, we've got the sky above. It's really very nice. It's like a little garden plopped down in the middle of the city. I enjoy it. One of my favorite parks. I was watching this video about the line, that city they're building in Saudi Arabia, and it was supposed to be like 170 kilometers long or something. They've decided now, I think it's going to be 2 kilometers long. Maybe that makes more sense. I don't know, it was an interesting idea. I saw they had this British guy talking about how they were designing it, and he said it's basically based on the grid system of Manhattan, and imagine that the ground floor of the line is like Fifth Avenue, and then they folded up the sides of Manhattan. So as you go up, it's like 6th Avenue, 7th Avenue, 8th Avenue. And I was thinking that's pretty interesting, because it's basically like just three-dimensionalizing New York City, and you could certainly go up and down. It does seem like you could get around more quickly. That's one of the things I like about the High Line. It's the third dimension of New York City. So I like that kind of thing. But anyway, back to the Epstein files. A lot of people are pretty annoyed. Lots of the stuff, it's already been released. And, they released these documents, not searchable. That's pretty standard lawyer stuff, by the way. I'm not making an excuse for it. I'm just saying I'm not surprised. They take PDF documents. What lawyers will frequently do is, you're typing something in Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever, Word Perfect if you're 90. Do they still have Word Perfect? Probably not. But you know what I'm saying. A document that originates digitally, what the lawyers will do is they'll print it out and then scan it and make a PDF out of the scan. The judges do this too. Caproni, I got to look into this further. One of the PDF documents that came from Caproni was not only like that, it was somehow encrypted. they do a lot of funky stuff with their PDF documents. They're definitely not trying to make it easy for you to search. So what I've been trying to do, and it's no small task, I set the download to begin yesterday, and it failed overnight for some reason. You know, people are rightfully so complaining that they've taken all these different pages and released them each as individual files. Now, I gotta say, I'm not familiar enough with the document trove or how it's stored. Like back in the day at 21st Century 3D, when I was doing stuff with huge numbers of tiny files like animation and stuff, you know, you create a stereoscopic movie, you've got left and right eye files. There are, in fact, certain advantages and even technical requirements to having things broken out into lots and lots of little files rather than one big file. And again, I'm not making an excuse for this. I'm just saying, you know, lawyers aren't that smart in my experience, and they're definitely not that good with IT. So who the hell knows how they decided to do this? But the point is, I think a lot of people want these documents to be made available in some kind of more convenient format. I think a lot of people are going to have a difficult time even looking at them, let alone searching them or, you know, downloading them. Some people are going to have a hard time doing. I've got a pretty fast internet connection at the apartment, and even on that, it was screwing up. So what I'm going to be doing over the next couple days, I've downloaded some of these already. Some of them are videos, some of them are images, some of them are documents. And I have a lot of plans for how I want to deal with these files to make them more accessible to people. And I'm going to start releasing them in more searchable, more accessible formats. Like I'm going to transcribe all the videos. Some of the videos they put on there, for instance, we've got this one video where it's like the cops just going around Epstein's house. So, you know, maybe we just post that instead of making it a zipped. That's another stupid thing that lawyers do, is they take an MP4 file and zip it and then post that. But you can't compress a compressed file. It actually makes it larger. I don't know, maybe they have some technical reason for wanting to do that. So, I mean, just a video like this, looking around Epstein's house, maybe there's something interesting to see here. I don't know. Seems like a sloppy way for the cops to gather evidence. And also, so this is 2005, but it looks like they shot this on VHS-C. I don't know what kind of equipment the cops had in 2005, but you could have had HD. But whatever, this is what they've got. It's certain artifacts in there make me think it's mini DV, or it was transferred to mini DV at a certain point. Looks pretty crappy to me. But then there's other videos they have that are like interviews. So I plan to transcribe these and make the transcripts available and searchable. Like here's just a segment of one.
Did he touch your vaginal area? Yeah. Did he touch you with his hands or with something?
With his hands.
Okay.
So people might say, "Oh, Jason, these are victims and blah blah." These are public files. Anybody can look at these. Congress posted them, so this is just now public domain information that, you know, it's out there. So, I mean, if people want to access it for free, go and struggle through the congressional website. But the work that I'm going to do to make these things easily viewable, wherever the videos may go and the transcripts and all that, it'll be made available for sponsors of Crowdsource the Truth, people who are sponsoring the show, because I can't do this work without your support and sponsorship of individual viewer sponsors. And thanks again to everybody who's doing that on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Look at those things. You got people who are also sponsoring the show on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. If you've been a sponsor on Odyssey, thank you for doing that. Odyssey, like Crowdsource the Truth, has come under attack from social engineers and scumbags who don't like the First Amendment or giving you the ability to listen to whatever you want to hear as another aspect of the First Amendment. But people got the show for free on there for months and months, and then when Odyssey lost their ability to process credit cards, I lost about 400 or 500 sponsors overnight. It was a big financial hit. So if you're one of the former Odyssey sponsors, I hope you'll join me again on one of the other platforms. And thanks to the people who have made individual sponsorship payments on paypal.me/crowdsourcethetruth. You can also see sponsor exclusive content if you subscribe on X. People who are following me on X at JG_CSTT can subscribe there and you'll get access to this content. But as I said, I'm going to transcribe those videos and make the text files available so that people will be able to search the text files for keywords, or I don't know, maybe journalists are going to be interested in that. Try to also post them as videos that will play so that they'll be, you know, again, it's a lot of different material, a lot of different formats, and it's not like this is going to be one big giant drop that I'm going to make everybody wait for. As the stuff becomes ready, I'll post it, and it'll probably be happening over days and days, the next coming weeks and stuff like that. Right, by the way, here is where all that crazy scaffolding was going on. Remember, this area was closed off for a long time. Most of the summer, in fact. I wasn't even up here. And now they have, just past this part, they have a whole new, you know, pathway, and these stairs are pretty new. I was down at that new park just the other day. So they are, you know, beautifying this part of Manhattan. Maybe not that part, but the chicken is crossing the road over here. I thought this was going to be a dog park, but it's just a regular sitting down park. Pretty nice. You can see the construction equipment is being cleared out, and now people have a new area to come and just chill out. There's normally a food vendor over there, and I think there's some kind of restaurant opening underneath here. That's actually another good thing about the High Line, is that in addition to having all these plants and flowers and stuff, there's restaurants all along here, so it smells really good as you're walking along. Yeah, so I was thinking about that thing, the line, because some people are saying like, oh, you know, it's a prison and it's a 15-minute city. That is true. I mean, I guess you could say that about Manhattan also. There's a lot of people who watch this and tell me I'm crazy for living here. I guess it's what you know, you know? Saudi Arabia changed something about their property laws where people are going to be allowed to actually, foreigners are going to be allowed to buy property there, and I think that's new. Here's the new, I don't know, wood. Is that going to last? They're going to stomp on that and it'd be destroyed by next summer. But I guess whoever convinced whoever to put this here wants to be continually reinstalling wood, make more money. The other thing that's interesting is, just as I was leaving the apartment, I noticed Bill Pulte, who maybe a lot of people know is the director of the Federal Housing Finance Administration, I think is what it's called, FHFA, FAHF, or something, FAHF. But you know, he's the head of that. I don't mean to make fun of it. Bill Pulte seems like an excellent guy. He's very effective, smart, tough, getting things done. He's the guy who's been kind of leading the charge on this Lisa Cook mortgage fraud issue. And I have a little bit of an announcement. Docket watchers may see that my motion seeking leave to file an amicus curiae brief in the case of Cook v. Trump, it was put on the docket there. Now, that's a good thing, because you see, with Judge Boasberg, this is the Washington, D.C. District Court, and we had, whoa, see, that's interesting. We got artwork there with the mask on. I mean, that's just basically become, that's life. And then who is that? Mick Jagger? Little girl with the bull. But remember, when I filed a motion seeking leave to enter as an amicus in American Oversight v. Hegseth, which was the stupid Signalgate case, where Norm and his asshole friends were trying to get Pete Hegseth kicked out. Oh no. Oh, I thought it was closed again. So maybe somebody's having a private party up here because it looks like they're setting up some event. Performance rehearsal in progress. All right. Well, we can still go down this way. The point is, American Oversight v. Hegseth, yeah, Boasberg, you might recall, he told the clerks, don't file that. Not even the motion seeking leave. That's not the proper way to do it. Now, Judge Cobb, if she doesn't like what I've put into the amicus brief, or if she doesn't think it's worth the court's time and attention, it is within her rights, her judicial discretion, to say no. She could say no. We're not just on the basis that you're pro se. Because I'm not an attorney, remember, and nothing I ever say is legal advice. The judge could say, and it would be very, very difficult for me to argue against this, the judge could simply say, my blanket policy is that as long as I'm a judge, I am never, ever, ever taking any amicus brief from a non-attorney. Go hire an attorney and come back. They could say that, and I'm frankly surprised that Boasberg didn't say that. It's part of the reason why I say I think lawyers are idiots. Because if he was smart, he would have done that. Instead, what he did was he played this whole hide the potato game where he told the clerks, don't enter that. And then when I called a week later and said, what the hell is going on with my brief, the clerks said, yeah, Yeb Boasberg told us not to put that in there. And that led to a whole 59E motion, to correct a judicial error, which amazingly he agreed to do. So, by the way, I'm finding out that even just the process of getting accepted as an amicus curiae as a pro se is pretty rare. So I'm proud of that. I mean, I haven't won too many of my cases. I don't know that I've actually ever won a case. Well, that's not true. I won against Nina. That was a good one. And I'm kind of hitting a stride, counter lawfare. It's another reason why it's super important for people to sponsor the show on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I couldn't do all this stuff without your sponsorship. Counter lawfare wouldn't survive. And also thanks to the people on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, anybody who's been to paypal.com, paypal.me/crowdsourcethetruth, or is subscribed on X at JG_CSTT. I couldn't do any of this stuff without that sponsorship. So I beat Nina, that was good. And again, it wasn't like straight lawyering. It's counter lawfare, because I'm starting to understand how their tricks work, and so I'm able to anticipate what they're going to do and counteract it or avoid it. You know, Nina was trying to have these ex parte hearings where they kept extending the restraining order, and I kind of stuck a little twig in the spokes, sent that bicycle off the sidewalk, and I got the restraining order lifted. So now I'm free to tell people about what a despicable piece of shit Nina Jankowicz is, that janky bitch. She's tied into all of this crap, by the way, this lawfare nonsense. You know, Ben Wittes is on the board of directors of her, looks to me very suspicious. She says it's a nonprofit. I don't think so. I think it's part of this, I allege, criminal operation that conflates 501c3 public charities organized under IRS section 170B A16, which are, it's like the most, tax deductible kind of charity, the most beneficial to donors. All the money that you give to something like that, you can take a tax write-off, tax deduction. So if you earn $10 million and give $1 million to a 501c3 organized under 170B1A6, you write off that million and you're not paying taxes on it and save money. Screw the taxpayers, you and me, who don't have $1 million to contribute to Democrat lawfare things. And then what they do is they join up those 501c3s with 501c4s. So in exchange for getting all this super beneficial tax deduction consideration from the IRS, they put these really stern restrictions on the types of operations that those organizations can get into. Charles has told us about this many times. I didn't know anything about this before I ever met Charles. Oh yeah, I meant to start off by saying we're not going to have Charles on tonight because, you know, his international rock star lifestyle, he's traveling today and his travel schedule will preclude broadcasting. So Charles will be back with us on Sunday, but I wouldn't know about any of this if it wasn't for Charles and all of the stuff that he was doing with the Clinton Foundation. And then remember when I met him, because George and Trish Negron set up the whole interview with Charles, he was talking all about the Clinton Foundation. And that's a 501c3. I don't know that they were necessarily doing this part that I'm talking about, the conflating it with the C4. Charles has spoken in detail about the various allegedly fraudulent things that the Clinton Foundation has done. But what I'm talking about specifically is Norm Eisen and a bunch of people in his orbit have sort of conflated a 501c3 with a 501c4. I see Nina doing this as well. Because the 501c4, if you donate money to that, that's like a political action committee or something. It's got tax exemption, you know, the thing itself doesn't pay taxes on the money it receives, but the donors have to pay taxes. You can't take a tax write-off. So in other words, if you started a law firm or whatever company you have, let's say you're a plumber, okay? My toilet's stuffed up, I earn $100, I pay tax on the 100. So I'm left with what, 62 bucks or something. You come over, you say 50 bucks to unclog the toilet. I pay you 50 out of the 62 I've got left, and that goes to, you know, Toilet Guys Plumbing, Inc. And after unclogging, you know, 10,000 people's toilets, you have $50,000, and then you go pay corporate tax on that. You pay all the people working for you, you pay payroll tax on that. Everybody getting a salary as an individual plumber pays income tax on their money. And so, you know, we're all basically taxed to death. And I'm not saying that's good or anything, I'm just saying that's the law. And if you're following the law, you're doing it like that. What Norm appears to have sorted out is this wonderful little trick where you get some millionaire like Reid Hoffman or whoever it was that they just said the other day is donating millions of dollars to, you know, Democrat bullshit like this. So they take the million, they give it to, like, let's say, oh, I don't know, Act Blue, because that is exactly named in the amicus curiae, because it says on Norm's Democracy Defenders Fund website, donate money to Act Blue. So they've got Act Blue Civic and then Act Blue something else, like Act Blue Action. This is what Norm does. He'll create the Democracy Defenders Fund and then the Democracy Defenders Action Fund. And I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't have all the documents in front of me, and it's deliberately designed to be super confusing. This is a really nice, I have to say, and it looks like they've made it even nicer, the Gansevoort Hotel. They've got a great roof party up there, a swimming pool and everything. This looks new to me. A little champagne lounge out here. I mean, but the weather has just been so beautiful. I have to say, this time of year in New York, I just love it. Absolutely great. I mean, this looks like a bit of a wreck, but you know, they're fixing it up. We got a crane over there. You get your Rolexes here. So what they do is they make it very confusing to understand which is the C3, which is the C4, where the money is going. Norm has now made a pattern and practice out of this because I brought this to Boasberg's attention in American Oversight v. Hegseth. I brought this to Ali Amir, that Canadian Crown agent, Egyptian Canadian Crown agent, who I don't even think is a U.S. citizen. You should not be allowed to be a judge in U.S. District Court if you aren't a citizen. And I would even go as far as saying you should have to be born here. Because if they're going to stick to this lifetime appointment, which they don't have, these judges should be removed, each and every one of them, for violating Article 3's good behavior clause. What is this? This is like a chicken rocket ship or something, right? The chicken rocket? What the hell is it? Weird faces and symbols. Any idea what that is?
Yeah, it's called the Mothership Connection.
What is it called?
The Mothership Connection.
Huh.
The artist's name is Zach Ove. There's a little placard in the front.
Oh yeah, thanks. Do you know the artist?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. He's British Caribbean.
It looks like a
Basically
chicken
taking,
launching
if you
into
look
space.
closely, it's like taking traditional African and Caribbean art
Uh-huh.
and bringing it into new forms with new materials.
Yeah, almost like Art Deco future. Like, look, we've got taillights from a 1957 Chevy or something up
He's
there.
really into cars as well. Yes.
Uh-huh.
He does some sculptures with just car parts.
That's interesting.
This stuff is really cool, actually.
All right, well, thanks for
Him
sharing
not being
that.
my friend aside, Zach Ove, his Instagram is ridiculous. He does this new stuff he's doing is just so incredible. Somebody gave him basically a thrift shop's worth of leather jackets, and he's basically making the same thing, taking traditional African masks, remaking them with leather jackets as a material. It's so
Wow.
incredible looking.
That's interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
Take care. So there we go, Mothership. I was right. It's some kind of a rocket ship. That was good. Get a little here. The Mothership Connection in partnership with NALA Projects and the New York City Department of Transportation's art program. Oh, I wonder how much they paid for that. It's powered by Dos Caminos, so maybe Dos Caminos paid for it. That's the chicken influence. This is Dos Caminos here. That's actually, it's a pretty good restaurant. It's a little salty, but
And it's not the Mothership Connection.
everybody knows about this but me. All right, anyway. So Norm, he's creating these, maybe that's the artist. But he didn't sound British. Norm is conflating these 501c3s with 501c4s. And it's a no-no because what he's doing is he thinks that allows him to engage in partisan political activity. That's the main thing that you're not allowed to do with a 501c3 public charity. You can't influence elections, you can't engage in anything remotely politically partisan, lobbying or whatever. And everybody sees Norm all over the place. MS Now, and his own stupid broadcasts with that crazy woman, the contrarian. He's all over the place, basically not just announcing, he's boasting that he's doing all these things specifically to stop Trump. So that's fine if you want to do that, but that is not a public charity. Now, okay, so if you wanted to start a public charity putting crazy art in parks, that is charity. Whether you like that or not, it's there for the purpose of just allowing people to come look at it and enjoy it. You know, we can get into the subjective nature of whether something is good art or bad art. That's not something saying, you know, do something to Donald Trump or anything. It's just art. And I'll tell you what, when that guy explained it to me, I like it better. Car parts and mixing modern art with traditional African art. It's an interesting idea. Anyway, my point is, what Norm is doing, it's not charity. It's a law firm. He's created a law firm that basically rich people can give money to, and not pay taxes on. Then he pays all the lawyers with money that he doesn't have to pay taxes on. And they're saving millions of dollars. And the problem is all of the lawsuits that these things are doing are against Trump and Trump cabinet people. Signalgate, the one with Ali Amir, that was Zaid versus the executive office of the President of the United States. You can't do that. You know, just get a millionaire to earn $1 million, pay tax on the million, take your 620,000 or whatever the number is. What about the show on Max Y with Ken? Oh, I don't know, Veronica. It wasn't necessarily that we were going to do a show. He was convinced that it was Thomas Crooks, and he's come around to at least admitting that there's a lot of suspicious evidence. But hang on, let me not lose the train of thought here. The idea is it's okay if Norm wants to do nothing but sue Trump. However, he's got to pay for that. By the way, I'm pretty sure this building was the Green Goblin's house in the original Spider-Man movie. Remember, he's up there, Willem Dafoe having those crazy kind of dissociative personality disorder episodes. I'm pretty sure that was the building, I think. Yeah, I mean, and that's the issue, is that they are misusing public funds. They're using your tax dollars because when they don't pay taxes, you're essentially subsidizing what they're doing. Here's 375-degree chicken. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good temperature for chicken, but they're proud of it. And that's the issue. So I was admitted in American Oversight v. Hegseth. I was admitted in, wow, look at that, a food truck with a table. That's fancy. It's better than selling it out of a cooler, right? You got to have a license to put the truck there. Got admitted to American Oversight v. Hegseth. I don't know that they've actually done anything. You know, I don't know that the judge is, I'm asking them to do various things, but I don't know that they will. It's a little bit of a milestone for me, just that it got accepted at all. Like I said, I think that's pretty rare, first of all, for unsolicited amicus briefs, and definitely pro se. Not too common. I mean, it happens, but we'll see what Judge Cobb says. Nobody else was talking about this aspect. I noticed there were a couple of other amici. There's that guy, I think his name is James Fishback. He's a cute little dog. James Fishback, he's, I think, got a real estate company, and he was saying that his interest in this matter is that when people do mortgage fraud, it affects the whole entire real estate market. I agree with him. He obviously knows a lot more about that than I do. Here's a little kid selling candy. Oh no, that's an adult woman, just very short. So this is kind of one of these nice little mini parks. Look at this. No, maybe it is kids. We've got, see, this is what I mean. There's sort of like an organized thing going on with the candy sales and illegal food sales. I just wonder who is behind that. Seem to have a little network of operatives within this fountain park, communicating on cell phones. I mean, think about that. If you were an illegal array of foreigners coming into the country and the government gives you cell phones, aren't we just like de facto standing up a criminal network? They're in communication with each other, saying, oh, the cops are coming. Stop selling illegal food. But we got that amicus curiae brief in there. Right, Fishback, he's saying it's affecting negatively the mortgage market, and he's right. It undermines it. Then I saw somebody else had one this morning. I was checking the docket. They were saying, or no, maybe this was an article from Mr. Bose. People were saying that she was getting, Lisa Cook was getting these mortgages from, oh, this is a good place for fish and chips, assault and battery. She was getting the mortgages from, what do you call it? Not a bank, but a credit union. These federal credit unions. And that because they have lower security or whatever kind of policies they're using to figure out who should get the loan or not. And she got it from this thing that only people who work for the IMF and the World Bank and whatever, and that credit union was boasting that they have over 100,000 members. But this article said that's weird because only 20,000 or some number of people even work for those other banks. So I don't know, maybe it includes their families and kids and who the hell knows what, how that works. But I mean, again, it just goes to, like we were talking about a while back with Adam Schiff, and I mean, this even goes back to Epstein, because you remember Andrew Weissman bought that apartment from Leonard Toberoff, who was an Epstein criminal associate. See, and this is the thing. I just don't think that we're ever going to get any clarity on these Epstein files. They released 33,000 of them in the most convoluted format you could possibly have them in. I mean, why did they do that? It's not because they want to get to the bottom of it. And is that Trump doing that? I don't know. I got to think this isn't at the top of his mind. I think it was terrible, the presentation of how he was, when it first came up at that cabinet meeting with Pam Bondi, where he was like, oh, Epstein, why do you want to talk about that loser? It really did make him seem guilty. But as I think about it more, it just doesn't make sense that if he was guilty, that it wouldn't have come out in 2016. And so now he's saying like, oh, the Democrats controlled those files. I think sometimes Trump speaks in a way, I don't know. I mean, sometimes he speaks in a way that cuts through the nonsense. He's just got a way of speaking that's unusual. I've probably mentioned this before. Somebody once told me that people who are billionaires are kind of like on the spectrum because there's something about them that's very much different than everybody else. And that makes sense. So, so Trump has certain, I don't want to use the word gaffes because that's more like Joe Biden where he says stuff that totally doesn't make sense. But sometimes when Trump is giving a press conference or whatever, he has a way of speaking that's just a little weird. Like he says, you entered that amicus brief very strongly. And it's like, is that even proper grammar? I know what he's talking about, but it's just a little strange, you know what I mean? So he's kind of got a way of speaking that is sometimes awkward, let's put it that way. And sometimes it works well, Adam Sharp was upset back in 2016, even said that Trump had become the most effective Twitter user, and that's how he won the election. That's Adam Sharp. He was a Twitter expert. And he was upset about that. And I think that's because of this kind of like concise, remember Twitter was, 240 characters or something at that time. So being able to consolidate an idea into some clever, pithy thing that catches people's attention or pisses them off or whatever, that was kind of his thing. So, but with the Epstein thing, I think what he's trying to do is to capture a very complex idea that we see playing out now. And what I mean by that is, I just don't know if we are ever going to get a satisfactory result from these Epstein files, because it seems like now it's at a point where whatever happens, it just isn't going to be believed by one side or the other. I'll give you another example. They had this press conference today, maybe Thomas Massey did it, where they had the victims. And the victims said, oh, that's it. We're going to release the list. It's like, oh, well, okay. So, but what does that mean? we're going to have a bunch of people who, one of them even said, this woman who seemed authentic, I guess. I just watched a little bit of it, but she was saying like, oh, this is disgraceful that the government has, now why is that playground closed? That used to be part of a school, I think. It's like all fenced up. This woman was saying, oh, the government has all these documents that are going to help me remember what Jeffrey Epstein did to me. And I was like, well, wait a minute, what? And I mean, I get it. We're dealing with a super sensitive issue here, you know, sexual exploitation and trauma and crimes against children and stuff like that. And people can kind of, you know, you get a mental block on stuff like that or whatever. I'm not a psychologist, I don't know. But right away, it causes me to go to, well, wait a minute. If you can't remember, now you're going to tell us something, and how do you know you're remembering it correctly? You need documents from the government to tell you what you remember? So now this is just one of the people who are supposedly going to give us this list. There was somebody among them who I think even the other victims said, hey, this person is lying. And later it came out that I'm pretty sure that person was lying. So you see, it causes me to immediately go to the norm type mindset, the George Webbs, the Norms, the Ben Whitties, where when there's a story that's dangerous to them, they go right to it and they start filling it up with bullshit so that you just can't know what is or isn't true. So Thomas Massie has this big press conference where they, you know, people alleging to be Epstein victims, and I'm sure many of them are. There were a lot of victims according to evidence. But how do you know somebody hasn't inserted a false victim into there to inject some story that's intended to hurt anybody that they don't like politically by saying who knows what that hasn't been said yet? But someone could now say, oh, I have a renewed memory. In fact, Donald Trump did do something. And so here's the list, and he's on it. Like, do we really think that's not going to happen? Seems like what they're queuing up. So I could understand why Trump would be pissed about that. And now Massie has his back up because, you know, Trump has said he's going to primary him or whatever. Oh, look, this place got rid of their wood. They had wood outdoor seating forever, so they've lost like a huge part of their restaurant. I mean, do people follow what I'm saying? Doesn't that seem... I saw Viva Fry, David Freiheit, who is a Alan Dershowitz sycophant, by the way. He loves Dersh. He's like starstruck by Dersh, the way my Inside the World of Jurassic Park 3D camera crew was starstruck by Steven Spielberg. These lawyers slobber over Dersh, who I think is a dickhead. But I saw David had a post where he was like, oh, what are these victims waiting for? Release the list. It's like, hey, wait a second. So now we want hearsay testimony? And then we're going to, what, politically crucify people over that? And you say, no, it's not hearsay, Jason. These people are victims. Well, hang on. Again, I'm not a lawyer. Freiheit he was a Canadian lawyer, so I guess that's, I don't know what, 82% of a lawyer, 75% of a lawyer. Hearsay is any statement made not under oath outside of court, even if it's by the person themselves, as far as I know. And by the way, it hasn't been authenticated necessarily even that every single one of those people is, in fact, a bona fide victim. So I don't know, the whole thing just seems very ripe for manipulation. And when I think about people like George and Norm, I mean, this is what they love to do. They never give up. They're not going to say like, oh man, you got us. You have the evidence. You control the Department of Justice. You've entered the evidence in court. That's when they start digging in further. Like when I found that evidence that really makes it look like George's brother and that idiot Richard Lurie, here's this thing that everybody says is 5G. I don't know, maybe it is, but how come that's the only one like that we see all around? Why aren't these 5G things everywhere? Maybe it is. Maybe it's something special for the Christian Scientist thing. I don't know what it is. But when I found that evidence that looked like Richard Lurie helped George and his brother submit a forged document in court, they didn't say, "Oh no, we admit we did it, we're sorry." They just dig in harder with bigger lies and they get closer to it. They get closer to it. What I mean by that is, that's when George's brother, you would expect if somebody did a crime like a felony, like forging a document and filing it in federal court, that person would, and particularly Betty Zoom, I don't know what's happening there. That was just a playground that was closed, if that's what you're talking about. Uh-oh, what's going on with the cops over here? Let's have a look. What I mean is, I think normally, and I'm just speculating, of course, because I don't get involved in felony forgery. I'm too concerned that I'd get caught and prosecuted. But I would presume, if that's what was done, they did it under the presumption that I would never find out. And by closely scrutinizing the metadata in the PDF files that were posted on the court docket there, I was able to find anomalies in when the document was created. It was created 3 days after it was filed, so obviously somebody had manipulated the filing date, and the only person who would be able to do that would be the clerk, whose name was on there as the author. And again, there was a moment where they could have potentially offered some kind of explanation that I don't know about.
I did not know what I wanted to do.
But they didn't do it. They just said it's a conspiracy theory and Jason's making it up. George, it's a pro se document filed by George. And I said, okay, where is the pro se filing receipt? And again, they could have presented that, but they haven't. Instead, what they did is they got closer to that crime. George's brother attempted to sue me. Well, not me. He attempted to sue Multimedia System Design, Inc., DBA, Crowdsource the Truth. What's going on here? Got a lot of cops. Something wrong?
No, there's a YouTuber that's in the park, so his fans are all here.
Wow. So that YouTuber gets all these police? That's amazing. Nice hat. Is that standard issue? So see, it's weird what they do with all these police, and nobody says anything to people on bicycles. So we have a YouTuber in the park. I wonder if they realize they have 2 YouTubers in the park. I get no police. I get choked by people who work for the police. It's just no effort whatsoever to make America New York City. So I just don't understand. This crowd warrants that kind of police response? Something weird about this.
I get those compared to my height. Yeah. This might be. Back up.
Who are you?
Security.
Don't put your hands on me.
He's here, we're here.
Sorry. Security for what? You just look like a guy who just assaulted me. Fucking asshole. Need you to back up. What the fuck is this? So they've got cops over here and random assholes assaulting people. What is this about? Are you with the cops? I don't care. You're in public. You got people over here saying there's security assaulting me. Cops all around the park. People riding skateboards. What the fuck are the cops doing here? Because they're not enforcing the law.
Are you injured?
Huh?
Are you injured?
I'm not injured. I asked you a question. What are you guys doing here? You're not enforcing the law.
We're here for this event that's happening right now.
Well, you're doing a very ineffective job because there's people in there claiming to be security committing assault, and you're standing here yakking it up doing nothing.